am going to share something that I've been a little reluctant to share for a few months. And this is really overall why I haven't been posting. I have recently been diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And some of you may be wondering, what is Crohn's disease? Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disorder, and it's pretty much where your digestive tract is confused and it starts beating itself up. So yeah, it really is not comfortable, and I wouldn't ever wish it upon anybody, even if I really didn't like them. One in, I think, every 10 people have Crohn's disease, so it's not too rare, but it's still not overly common. It's kind of similar to ulcerative colitis, which ulcerative colitis is pretty much the same thing, just only in your colon, while Crohn's disease goes all throughout your digestive tract. I was actually diagnosed on Friday the 13th in February. What an odd day to be diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So here's kind of how all of it unfolded. I woke up Thursday morning, Thursday, February 12th, is when this whole thing started. I had woken up and I'd gone downstairs, and I was just chilling on the sofa, and my mom was on the phone with our family doctor. And she got off the phone, and she didn't seem to be very happy at all. And I was like, what'd they tell you? Because we had been trying to get me in to get a scope, which is pretty much where if you swallow this very tiny camera, and they can view your digestive tract that way. We had already done a CT scan and a bunch of blood work, and we just couldn't find anything. So she said, I talked to your doctor, and she said that she fully supports me taking you to a children's hospital to get this taken care of. So we did. We went to an emergency room at a children's hospital, and we were told, wait here, and we'll get you we'll get you in to have you looked at and just get things overall completed. I was severely dehydrated. They needed to draw blood, and I was pretty much used to that by now. It had already happened a whole bunch. So we were in there in the emergency room, and they said, okay, so obviously something is wrong. We can tell. We don't know what it is. We're thinking it could be some sort of infection or something like that. And that's what my mom was hoping for, because that's curable. and you can just grab some antibiotics and go home, and I'll be healed in a few days. Well, that's not how it went. We were sitting there and they said, okay, we're gonna move you rooms. You guys have to stay the night at the hospital because they said they can get him a scope tomorrow. They don't know exactly when. They think it may be in the morning or afternoon. So we are gonna keep you guys tonight and hopefully be able to send you home tomorrow with some answers. So we stayed the night there at the hospital, and that was going to be day 1 of 6. I remember getting up to my hospital room and meeting my nurse. He was the coolest guy in the world. And I remember after I met him, I looked at my mom and I said, I feel like this isn't going to be too bad. And she said, I don't think it will be either, but I'm still not happy that this is happening to you. I'm like, I'm not happy that's happening to me either. That's a little too pale. Oh, goodness. But, so we were kind of bummed about that. Hey, I actually have a better color scheme for this. We didn't want to have to stay for a bunch of days there, but we knew it was probably for the better. So, even though we were reluctant, we stayed, and I kind of didn't have any choice. I felt like I was dying from the inside out because I kind of was. Not really dying, but there was stuff going on in there, and it wasn't good. But they kept me in the hospital. We got the scope the next day, and I woke up, and my mom told me, you have Crohn's disease. And I was like, okay, so is that curable? And she said, no. Crohn's disease is treatable, and you can get infusions for it, but there is no cure. So that's what makes it chronic. I have it for the rest of my life. There's no cure, and I just have to live with it. And I'm saying this now, it's really not as bad as you would think. Yeah, it stinks, and it's not really a comfortable disease to have to deal with, but it could have been worse. This does, however, give me a higher possibility for some types of cancers in my future, and we have some family history with some other types of cancer in the digestive tract, so that freaked out my mom. Like, she took the news harder than I did. I mean, yeah, I was just diagnosed with Crohn's disease, but you are acting like it was you. But I was also really tired from the anesthetics, so yeah. They actually didn't put me out with gas because I'm terrified of the gas. I don't like it. It's put out once for ear tube surgery, I just never liked it since. So I asked them if we couldn't do the gas, we could just do IV, and they said yes. So I had to stay in the hospital for 6 days. We would have been discharged earlier, but the GI team I was working with, they wanted to get an MRI done. So we had to stay and wait for 2 more days because the MRI took so long. I don't know why it took so long, but it did. It took so long to get me in. It was like 8:30. They said, we have to discharge you tonight. Like, we can't keep you here anymore. We had already been there for 6 days, and I didn't want to be there anymore. I never wanted to be there to begin with. In fact, I was angry when my mom told me we were going, because I just wanted to stay home. I didn't feel good, and I'm like, why do I have to go? Why is this a necessity at this point? And I'm actually really glad she took me now. But I was very excited to have the MRI finished, and they told me, okay, you can go home, and I was psyched. We stopped, we got Arby's on the way home, and I'm like, I could actually use having Crohn's disease, not because I got Arby's, but because it didn't seem that bad. Well, here comes the part I am not too excited about. Treatment. I have to get infusions, which are pretty much a medication through the IV, and I have to get those for the rest of my life. So you may be thinking, oh, it's not that bad, you just get medication through your IV. Well, for my case, it is, because my last infusion, I had, well, we don't know for sure, but we think it was an allergic reaction. On my first infusion, which I got in the hospital, I was on steroids, try to like help with the inflammation and all that stuff while I was there. So that would have made it so I wouldn't have had the allergic reaction. This was a slightly different medicine, my second one, and it was just like, I had not very big, but a little more than I wanted. It was just a small patch of hives going around my arm, which isn't good for medication you're gonna have to be on for the rest of your life. So I was glad my mom came up and woke me up to ask me if I wanted to play a board game. But yeah, so I have to get medication every 8 weeks for the rest of my life. Now, some of you may be thinking, do I have Crohn's disease? For me, it started feeling like a small stomach ache. And then it started getting worse, and I noticed that it was getting worse, and I was able to notice I don't feel good, and I came homeschooled from where I was, and I was like, Mom, I don't feel good. I just don't. Oh, I want to make this like a gradient. This isn't working. Oh, add second layers. Oh, I can. Cool. Never knew that. Lightest up from where it was, but I ooh, undo that. We're gonna make this line just a tad bit thicker, not that size. But I where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I kind of like left the school I was at. I left public school. I left a lot of friends, but I was like, I don't feel good. I feel like this is a good decision. And little did I know, it was a great decision. Because I would have had to have like a whole like, different, like, I don't remember what it was called, like a 504 plan or something. Where I would have, like, if I needed to use the restroom, I kind of just, like, was able to just walk out. But I didn't want to do that, and I came home before all that started. There were already rumors going on before I left, because people knew something's up with them. We don't know what it is. Some kids thought I had cancer, which thankfully I don't. But a lot of kids were like, "Is he okay? What's up with him?" It, it was just all sorts of weird things going on with me, and I wasn't really enjoying it at all. So I just picked the same color. But if you're wondering, do I have Crohn's disease? I'm pretty sure you would know. It's something kind of noticeable. You notice changes kind of early in it, and those changes become even more noticeable the further you get, especially if you're in the middle of a flare, which is the fancy word for saying you're showing a very bad case of symptoms. But I had all these problems going on over Christmas and stuff like that, and during my first story time video, I had those symptoms going on, and they were really bugging me then. And after I left school, I kind of just stopped talking to people there, and now I'm just living. But I have kind of strict diet. I can't really eat red meat anymore, and it's all just like really odd, not fun things. And all my doctors are saying we want him to live a normal life and just live like a normal kid. Oh goodness. And I'm pretty much gonna be able to do that. It's just gonna take some getting used to this issue I have, I guess. But I feel like there's a lot I can do with this. I can turn this into something that I can use for the better. And I have ideas on how I can do that. I'm already considering doing something like cooking wise where people can learn what they can and can't cook. Not really can't eat. That's the hard part about all this, is everybody's case is different, so I can't help people by telling them, oh, this is what you can and can't eat, because everybody's case is different. So I can't be like, oh, eat this, eat that, because some trigger foods will trigger other people. So it's all a really confusing topic, but I feel like I'm gonna be able to turn this into something a lot better than it seems. But yeah, that's my experience with a chronic illness, disease, I guess. But yeah, I wouldn't really be worried about you having Crohn's disease. It's not really common, but it's not the rarest of things. They're trying to find a cure for it, and hopefully it'll be in my lifetime. But until then, I just have to live with this. But I'll see you guys in my next video. If you like this, then hit that like button. If you want more of this content, you can head on to my channel. My first few videos aren't really good, but I'm going to be doing a lot more of this stuff and storytelling and stuff like that while drawing. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace out.